Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yessir li emri ve hlul min lisani yefkahu kavli. Selamun aleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatuh. Inshallah, we will continue with the 10th proof. 22nd, we are reading from 22nd word, first station. And inshallah, we will continue with the 10th proof. So these are proof, I guess that will be 12 of them. These are the proofs for the unity of Maker as we observe in the creation, and altogether are the interpretation of the verse in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. So God sets forth parables for men so that they may bear them in mind. Such are the similitudes which we propound to men that they may reflect. Such are the similitudes which we propound to men that they may reflect. The first verse is from Quran, Surah 14 and Ayah 25. And the second one again from Quran, Surah 59, Ayah 21. So interesting, there's nothing about the unity of the Maker in these verses, but I guess that this is my understanding. I might be wrong, but the author is taking the unity of the Creator as a case study, which is implied by the similitudes or the examples or parables that we observe in the creation. So according to author, a flower, for instance, would be a parable or a metaphorical speech of the Creator pointing to the unity of the Creator, the Maker. So author was explaining this or demonstrating this methodology using another parable where two brothers, were they brothers or friends? Two friends wake up while washing in a pool, and our beloved brother Yusuf was interpreting this parable as two people being born, like coming from the womb of the mother, as if coming from a pool that we get washed. So anyway, they open their eyes to the new world and trying to make sense of the new world. At least one of them was trying to make sense, the other one was just enjoying or trying to enjoy. So anyway, we came to the 10th proof, and I'm looking for some volunteers. To read. Abdul Rahman raising his hands, shaking it, waving it, but I guess it's really hard to understand his body language, whether he's insisting to read or just saying, no, I'm not here. Let's ask others then. By the way, Asim, you have a comment saying, I'm also wondering the same. Which part you referring to with your comment?
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. When you were talking, giving the summary about the verse, and I was trying to also make the connection on what the parables for men are. I mean, the similitudes, I think, was the focus on how I was understanding it, like the similitudes which you propound to men that they may reflect. So in terms of the comparisons and like the discretion that every human being goes through in terms of when they're like newly born and just wondering at all those things. So you see like all those different things that are, the universe is out there decorated and proving something, showing something. But the parables, I was wondering what the Arabic word for that was. Because in my mind, the parable must have a lot of meanings. As like, kind of like Brother Ali has been emphasizing on the vocabulary of the words in the Quran. And like now in our day and age, it has changed according to the culture and civilization. So again, the way the speech of the God, like when the speech says something that, there's some things for men. So there's like more to parables than what, the regular way of parables as a story that is normally understood in civilization. But I think I liked your explanation of, you were saying like the example of the flower is like a parable or a story or something that has to be read. And then, so then that has to be reflected upon. So that's what I was trying to see in terms of the different proofs, which are all to do with actually the, looking at the universe and observing things and seeing the order and the balance in the universe and seeing the unity as we were focusing last time. So I was just trying to make sense of the verse with those topics. Thank you.
Well, Jazakallah khair. Asim, you are definitely on fire today. So maybe you should read it for us and lead the discussion, inshallah. But before handing the mic to you, about your question, the Arabic word for parable, our Arabic experts here, they said it's emsal. Misal is another form of the same word, and it's usually used, as far as I remember, as either for example or something alike. For instance, the Creator says we change them with their, like use the emsal there, with something similar or better. So anyway, it has such connotation, but I guess in this context is something reminding us something beyond itself. It's just an example of it, reminding us, and it has some similarities. And I guess by that, Nursi is also emphasizing one of his fundamental approaches, saying that don't look at things for the sake of themselves. Because when you look at a parable, a metaphor, you don't look at a metaphor to, like for example, we are not trying to understand the names of the two friends in here. We are not listening to that parable as if it is a real thing that we need to understand the thing itself. We are trying to understand what it points to. And in a sense, he is now saying that familiarize yourself to look at the existence in a way that it refers to something else, not to itself. So that being said, it's now yours, Asim.
Yeah, thank you. That helped a lot. So misal, right? That's the word. Okay, that's good. That's how very good. Okay. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We are reading from the 22nd word, first station, and you want me to read the 10th proof, right? Okay, Bismillah. Come, my friend, who has come a little to his senses. We have been here 15 days now. And there's a footnote for 15 days indicates the age of 15, the age of discretion. Okay, so yeah, once the human qualities start flourishing in a human being. So now that, that is where all the senses should be, at peak. So who has come a little to senses, we have been here 15 days now. If we do not know the regulations of this world and do not recognize its king, we shall deserve punishment. Interesting. If we do not know the regulations of this world and do not recognize its king, we shall deserve punishment. So we shall deserve punishment. by not recognizing. We have no excuse because for 15 days, as though given a respite, they did not interfere with us. We have no excuse because for 15 days, as though given a respite, they did not interfere with us. Of course, we have not just been left to our own devices. Who is they? They did not interfere with us. Anybody can say, like, can talk freely. Whatever you understood from they.
I guess they, like he referring to like they in general, like nobody interfere with us. And like from previous points, he was talking about the palace, creation with an order, and concluding that there must be an order and his legions and so on. So he observed that somebody taking care of everything and somebody sending his troops to put and give an order to things, but at the same time, is nobody interfering with what we are doing, as if we are, within such an ordered universe, we are free to do whatever we want, even sometimes going against the order.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Because he's saying, as I understand, so basically when you come to your age of discretion, like you are basically innocent as you're learning things. But once you reach that age where you are able to look at things and discern things and use your qualities, then you start becoming responsible for them. So that, yeah, in that sense, it makes sense that they did not interfere with us. So nobody said when they were younger before 15 days, but now that they've reached 15 days, that they are more responsible. And then he says, of course, we have not just been left to our own devices. We cannot wander around among these delicate, well-balanced, subtle, skillfully made, and instructive creatures like an animal and spoil them. We cannot wander around among these delicate, well-balanced, subtle, skillfully made, and instructive creatures like an animal and spoil them. They would not permit us to harm them. The penalties of this country's august king are bound to be awesome. You can understand how powerful and majestic he is from the way he orders this huge world as though it was a palace. You can understand how powerful and majestic he is from the way he orders this huge world as though it was a palace and makes it revolve like a machine. He administers this large country like a house, missing nothing. See, like filling a container and emptying it. He continuously fills this palace, this country, this town with perfect order and empties it with perfect wisdom. Like spreading out a table, then clearing it away. Varieties of food are brought in turn and given to eat in the form of a great variety of tables. So there is a footnote. The tables indicate the face of the earth in summer, during which hundreds of tables of the most merciful emerge fresh and different from the kitchens of mercy. Every garden is a cauldron, every tree a tray bearer. So like spreading out a table, then clearing it away, varieties of food are brought in turn and given to eat in the form of a great variety of tables being laid out by an unseen hand in every part of his vast country, and then being cleared away. The unseen hand clears away one, then brings another in its place. Yes, you see this too. And if you use your head, you will understand that within that awesome majesty is an infinitely munificent liberality. Within that awesome majesty is an infinitely munificent liberality. And see, just as all these things testify to that unseen one's sovereignty and unity, so too these revolutions and changes, which pass on in succession like caravans, and are opened and closed from behind that tree, veil, testify to his continuance and permanence. And see, just as all these things testify to that unseen one's sovereignty, so all these things testify to that unseen one's sovereignty and unity, so too these revolutions and changes, which pass on in succession like caravans and are opened and closed from behind that true veil. So from behind that true veil, so they're not happening on their own, testify to his continuance and permanence. For the causes of things disappear along with them. The causes of things disappear along with them, whereas the things which we attribute to them, which follow on after them, are repeated. That means those works are not theirs, but the works of one who does not perish. It is understood from that that the bubbles on the surface of a river, disappearing, and the bubbles which succeed them, sparkling in the same way, that what makes them sparkle is a constant and elevated possessor of light. Bubbles on the surface of a river disappearing, and the bubbles which succeed them, sparkling in the same way, that what makes them sparkle. So what makes them sparkle is a constant and elevated possessor of light. Similarly, the speedy changing of things and the things that follow on after them, assuming the same colors, show that they are the manifestations, inscriptions, mirrors, and works of art of one who is perpetual, undying, and single. That is the 10th proof. So let's go back and start from the first paragraph. So like, in the first paragraph, as was being read, I noticed that he is making a point about, coming to our senses, basically, when we are able to, based on our, the maturity age or the age of discretion. So before that, we are basically not really responsible, but we try to make sense of things. So that's why I was saying, now that we've come to some senses, or a little bit of senses, but now that we've fully come to that responsible age, then we should not have much excuse. Otherwise, it is us who will be punishing ourselves. So we deserve the punishment, because we will be missing out on whatever the universe is conveying. So we will be missing out on whatever the things that are present and available in front of me, or they are pointing to that, their owner, and I'm going to miss out on that. So, and the reason why I am responsible, because now that I have all my qualities, I can see the author says, the delicate, well-balanced, the subtle, skillfully made and instructive creatures. And he gives an example of, the animals. So for example, if I see, like, say, a squirrel, and I just say, yeah, it's a squirrel, that's it, and don't read what the squirrel signifies. Most of the time we see like a sparrow, and we don't just say, yeah, just a sparrow. It's not like the eagle, or it's not the falcon, but it's a sparrow. And we miss the, what the sparrow signifies. So we don't see the balance and the harmony that is available in the creatures around us. Same thing with the plants and the trees and the sky and the air, everything, because we are using it, we're living with them, but we don't really acknowledge or don't read them for their purpose. So that is why the more we are able to read, the more we are able to understand who the owner or the creator of who the Lord Almighty can be, what the qualities, how we can qualify this source of, this necessarily existent source. Otherwise, if we don't, then we will be living like just, like animals, I would say, not really reading anything and seeing what the things signify, and that will be how we will be treated. So that is how I understood it. I will let you guys, anybody, feel free. You can talk or raise your hand, whatever.
Assalamu alaikum. May I speak, Azam?
Of course. Go ahead.
I'm just being here. A good example, good citizen. So one thing about this punishment. So since I like causing troubles. So it says, if we do not know the regulations of this world and do not recognize its king, we shall deserve punishment. We have no excuse, because for 15 days, as though given a respite, they didn't interfere with us. And then it says, we cannot just wander around all these delicate creatures like an animal. We cannot spoil them. And we are not allowed to harm them. So what he talks about is like a serious business. It's not like just you misinterpret something. You spoil things, you destroy them, you harm them. And he's talking about a punishment. Yes, we can take this punishment as different ways. I guess the original word is jaza, which also means being given whatever equivalent, right? So it has such a meaning as well. So getting what you deserve, kind of. So yes, I mean, it's obvious that we get what we deserve, or we induce the punishment on ourselves. But what kind of punishment we talking about here? One question, and another is like what kind of spoil or harm he's talking about? Because as I said, like to me, it sounds like he's warning something beyond as innocent as, let's say, not making sense of things or not understanding things correctly, but just spoiling them, harming them, treating them like animals. So what is the equivalent of this in our lives? That's my question.
Okay, yeah, so first of all, the punishment is not like coming from the king, right? He's not punishing you, but says we shall deserve. So the one who is reasoning and talking to his friend is saying, like, there must be a purpose for all these things around us, whatever we are seeing, and all these qualities within us that we are able to decipher and see things around, as the way they are in terms of their existence. They're skillfully made, like they don't, for example, like the example I noticed in my vicinity, for example, the trees were pretty much empty. There was no leaves, nothing, just a few days ago. And now I'm seeing like a lot of green leaves coming around. It's just like, this change that is happening, and it's like a miracle happening. Like from dry, trees, all of a sudden, green leaves are appearing on it. And some of them now, like at least 3-4 days ago, I noticed also like some of them are starting to get little flowers on them. Like, how can that be? Like something that was, I just noticed pretty dry, nothing at all on it, then became green, and then, like a pinkish red flower that now is appearing on some of those tips of the branches. So those kind of scenes are like, we cannot, we see them, we have to pay attention to them. I mean, I cannot deny that this thing is happening. So I'm able to look at it and observe it and see that. And if I just ignore it, for example, or I don't see or read behind what all these changes are, then really I'm punishing the way my feelings, my senses, my intelligence, everything is being punished because it's not being used. So there's no usage. So how, I don't know why a human being would be given all those things. So that is a big punishment in my sense. But I will let some others also answer whatever, Birkan, you were asking. Yes, Khadija, please go ahead.
So I think in terms of the punishment, I was also thinking about the sentence where it talks about animal-like and spoil. So I'm going to read the sentence. It says, "We cannot wander around among the delicate, well-balanced, subtle, skillfully made and instructive creatures like an animal and spoil them." I think part of what I was asking, what is it about wandering around all of these things that makes one diminishes one's value or to an animal and spoil it? And I guess, like, for example, with the example of the tree or an orange, it's almost bringing the qualities within the orange than the orange itself. So it says these delicate, well-balanced, subtle, skillfully made and instructive creatures, and creatures that I'm interpreting as like everything in creation, rather than the orange itself. So if I take an orange, for example, and if I just see it as an orange and that's it, like I don't define the process or define the qualities that I'm seeing in the orange, how, like, it has a perfect shape, it has a perfect cover, it encapsulates the moisture inside of it, it tastes nice, it's appealing to my vision, it's good for my body, I have that relationship with it. There are so many different levels to this. If I ignore that, then in a way I'm also ignoring that aspect of myself as well. So in my definition of the orange, I'm also taking an approach as to how I define myself as a human being. So if I take the orange as just an orange and that's it, period, without kind of seeing the qualities in it, then I also see myself as a human being, just as like a physical human being that breathes and does all the X, Y, Z. There isn't, I can't see the qualities that are manifest in me. In which case, then that becomes the punishment for myself that I inflict upon myself, because then I define myself as an animal in the sense that there is nothing for me beyond just the outward appearance of things. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Oh, very nice, thank you. Yes, Faria, go ahead.
That was a beautiful summary by Hatice. I wanted to give an analogy about what I took away from inflicting punishment on oneself. It's really, so let's say a teacher gives a packet or homework packet to students, right? Do this, right? This is for your own benefit. There's a major exam coming up, right? And really, it's up to, the onus lies on me. Am I making an effort to do it? Like, even making an effort. Fine, I received it, thank you. It's in my hand, I put it in my book bag and so on and so forth. But did I take it out, right? Did I read what it says? Did I even attempt any questions in it? No. So similarly, like, I roam around the universe without reading anything, like reading, like, Hatice was saying, reading yourself, reading creation, nothing. So it's just similar to like carrying the homework packet in my book bag and not even attempting any problem in it. So and then obviously the day comes in, the major exam, I sit down and I don't know, the result gets created, right, based on the way I followed the order. So Yeah, so it's interesting, really, like where the responsibility really is upon me. Like, what kind of student am I? Am I reading creation? Am I really being vigilant of trying to understand the meaning of things? Because every moment is an opportunity, really, to get one droplet or to make sense of something, and really, like, even getting that one droplet, you know, it makes you thirsty for more. You're like, hey, you know what? I need more. And if not, if I just stop there, if I, you know, don't even bother about it, then, you know, eventually I will get thirsty. But then what would satiate my thirst would just be temporary satisfaction, which really does not satisfy my the appetite of my spirit.
Yeah, thank you. Very nice. Okay, so let's see what, if Berkan is satisfied. I think he has to say a few things. Thank you. Go ahead, Berkan.
Well, Jazakallah khair. So one thing about like spoiling or harming things, that part I was thinking. So one example I was able to come up with, like imagine you go into an art museum and you know all these beautiful paintings. I don't know, you go to what's the museum? Louvre in France.
Louvre.
Okay, that's I cannot pronounce. So you go to this museum and while you know just watching the Mona Lisa, you just take it and throw it away or destroy it. So you like without any, I guess, discussion, you're just committing a crime. At least for someone who is into you know art. I'm not talking about you know you committing a crime because you destroying something belongs to someone else, but you destroying something so much valuable, so much expressive, telling the talents, the capacity of the human beings, the point that a human capacity you know can reach. Not even the final point, but still, like you committing a crime against this artful object, and nobody would, you know, just be okay with you. Nobody with a, you know, sane mind. Or even maybe a darker example. So I don't know, have you ever watched the original Planet of Apes? The movies, but the original ones, not the new ones. So there, in one of the, let's say the movies, there are multiple of them, the apes are ruling the earth, and the human beings, two human coming from past, they being captured, and these apes making some experiments on them because they see them as just animals, this human being. They make some experiments on them, they just treat them as we treat animals, even worse. And while I'm watching this, you know, I like sincerely get like excited about, like get angry. Like, how can you treat a human being like this? There are several, you know, examples in Hollywood for that, like human beings being treated by some alien species or so on. But you get so angry when you watch that, partly because of, you know, nationalism or speciesism, whatever, but partly because you see, you know, how a conscious being with such a big potentiality is treated. Like you just not only denying, but also insulting all the potentialities, all the capacities that a creature has. You're taking away all these faculties. They were, for instance, making some experiments. The guy were not able to speak, and then were not able to think, and so on. So this is something unacceptable. And I guess this is what we do when it comes to creation, when it comes to not only animals, but everything. Because as everyone would remember, like we were discussing how everything is a conscious being, how everything is presented by a conscious being. So when we treat them as just objects, as just, I don't know, stone, we're treating them as the same way a highly evolved ape treats human being. And I guess this is the anger that we should be feeling against ourselves when we treat them that way, when we treat them as just stones that they cannot speak, they cannot see, they cannot hear, they cannot communicate with us. We treat them that way, we teach all others to treat in that way. We write books to treat them that way. We exploit them, we destroy them. So I guess what we do there is not, any innocent. It's not it's not an acceptable act. So if there is justice, this act deserves punishment. Again, whatever we understand from punishment may change, but I guess when I hear the word punishment in this context, it doesn't bother. I don't say, oh, but what about the mercy? What about, this is definitely deserves punishment. So again, we can define the punishment, how we experience it, how we actually find mercy even in this punishment. But just when reading at the surface level, superficially, when I hear punishment, to be honest, it doesn't raise any red flag in my mind. But what about, no, this definitely deserves punishment.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. I mean, I do respect your Hollywood examples, but I prefer the museum, the Louvre example, much better. So, for example, if the famous artist Bertrand da Vinci painted a painting being displayed at the Louvre, and people are just passing by and not appreciating it, how would Mr. Bertrand feel that way? Oh my, such a beautiful hard work and painting, and nobody's appreciating that. So that kind of sits, well with me in terms of how, something that a masterpiece that may be, that is there to be displayed, and no one, is being ignored. Nobody is saying like, okay, yeah, look at what kind of skill is present in there, what kind of art is in there, and really appreciating it, like who is the artist behind that. But in terms of your the movie story that you referenced, you're right about how the experiments being done on humans in that particular movie. That tells you like how we are treating also the things that we don't, because it's just the way they are, take them for what they are, consume them, use them, and discard them, and not really seeing that what they stand for, what their value is, and that they belong to the same owner, is the one and absolute source that I am coming from, or that I belong to as well. So I see a few hands. I know Fariha had her hand first, and then Berkan. So Fariha, you want to go first, and then we'll ask Berkan.
I just wanted to add on to what Brother Berkan said about how punishment becomes mercy, where you really see that where we realize and recognize everything, like the opportunity that was presented to you. But again, there's another opportunity. Hey, guess what? You can do some makeup work, right? And then, submit the assignment, right? So we can bring your grade up. So that's where there's mercy, like the opportunity, right, for the next I guess, yes. Just it becomes mercy when you realize, you know, your own wrongdoing, your own mistake, and you see the next moment as an opportunity to make up for it. So that's where the mercy lies. Yep.
Thank you. Very good. Berkan, go ahead.
So I was going to ask, author in here is talking about spoiling, but in the examples that were given, it is like not appreciating art. So how is it that not appreciating becomes spoiling? And for example, somebody invites you to his house, and he has art being displayed in the walls, and maybe you don't like it, and you don't think that it's artistic. Are you spoiling the art, or I mean, is this something punishable? What do you think? Just for clarification, in my example, you were destroying the art, not just disliking. Right? Yeah, but I guess when you come to the world, and well, you don't need to be religious. Actually, today somebody was quoting this. Two young men was walking in front of her, and she heard them saying, "Well, no need for religion, just be good people." So, yeah, I mean, just be good people. What does it mean to be? What do we mean by appreciating, not appreciating, spoiling? What does this mean?
Okay. Anybody who wants to say something? Because I was thinking like appreciating is part of that also in terms of spoiling. Like not appreciating it. Like for example, I wrote down like let's say a fruit, and if you don't, if I ignore it, I don't eat it, I don't use it, I don't, what happens? It spoils, it rots. So neither I benefited, and I did not give the value to that particular fruit, and I just let it spoil. So that's one way. But if I'm sure there are like other ways and like other meanings behind it. So I would like to hear that also. So please go ahead. Anybody?
Wait, what's the question or comment to elaborate on?
How do we see spoil? Because the examples that we've been using is more about like not seeing or appreciating the things around us, but how are we spoiling them? And Yusuf, you can correct me if you have other, if you need to clarify further on this. Faria, go ahead.
How you can spoil something in creation? Well, things are presented to us for a purpose, right? I myself have a purpose, right? So I need to utilize these tools to make some meaning out of it. How would I spoil these created things? Even myself, like if I'm not obviously reading creation, I'm not doing anything, I'm not utilizing everything that's available, accessible to me, resources for myself to get that which I'm seeking, right? Which is making my interactions meaningful, then not only am I spoiling my own make, but I'm also spoiled them. I'm spoiling creation around me. So for example, I don't know, maybe if let's say I have a little pet or something and I'm not interacting with it in a meaningful way where I'm reading its creations, where it connects me to its maker, which happens to be my source of existence as well, then I'm spoiling it. Or just going to a very more simple example of just eating a fruit. I know the fruit we used today was orange. So if I'm just eating an orange just for the sake of satisfying or getting nourishment for my stomach, then that's also spoiling the purpose of existence of the orange. Yes, it is to provide me nourishment, but it's also there for a more higher level purpose, to help me connect to its source of existence. So eating the orange just for the sake of eating it, for the sake of pleasure, it looks nice, smells good, let me get some vitamin C and so on and so forth, then I am spoiling the essence of orange, which I need in terms of fueling my spirit. Yeah, that's just my takeaway on spoiling, but I would love to hear what others have to say on what does it mean to spoil creation.
Thank you. So if Yusuf or Burkhan, anybody wants to say, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. In the beginning of that sentence that the word spoil is used, as I read it, it says we cannot wander around, and it clicks with me in the sense that if I do not attempt to ask any question regarding the reality of the existence, then I will get nothing back. So that I call it attempt, and no attempt results in spoiling them, kind of.
Yeah, good summary. Thank you, Mama Said. Whoa. Somebody changed my name. Okay. Okay, anybody else wants to comment or say something? That must be Yusuf. Yusuf, please go ahead.
So, yes, it was me. Sorry. Yeah, I guess, so the reason that I'm asking this question is apparently, for example, for a flower, if I don't appreciate the flower, I'm not really harming the flower, apparently. Flower keeps living as a flower. Maybe Birkan appreciates the flower, so my lack of appreciation apparently is not, or maybe it does, but apparently it does not harm the flower. But it looks like author is implying as if by not appreciating the flower, meaning that not taking it as a parable of some truth, pointing to some truth, actually I am spoiling the flower. So it might be that this is my only explanation that I can come up with. In my perception, I am spoiling it. So in my world, it's becoming a spoiled thing because it's becoming like a source of torture for me, for example. Instead of being a blissful flower, now it is becoming a source of torture for me because it's going to die and it's going to remind me of death. So although it was supposed to be a glad tidings, a message to me reminding me of eternal beauty, it is now becoming like this tool for torture for me. So I am spoiling it definitely in my perception. And beyond that, am I spoiling the thing over there? I don't know. But this one, clearly, yes, I am doing it. And since I am invited to this palace, as the author is saying, as a witness, so my duty is actually to appreciate this order, this beauty. And by not appreciating this beauty and instead saying that it is not beautiful, it is ugly, or there's no order, I am also going against, as if I am spoiling myself as well in here. Because my duty, I am now going totally against my duty here. The reason that I was invited to this palace. Like very related to what you said, and together with my example about these experiments they conducting on a human being. In Quran, there's this interesting phrase, like repeated several times, like their eyes are blinded, the ears are deaf. So by doing so, by doing what Yusuf just described, we spoiling our faculties. We're making ourselves deaf, just like these apes making this guy deaf. We're making ourselves blind. And this is a big spoil. This is a big harm that we're causing. You're destroying your faculties. You're destroying your potentialities. you're just becoming a piece of meat that is destined to be rotten under the earth. This is what you become. Not even a living livestock, just a piece of meat. This is what you do to yourself. And I guess your question, Yusuf, about just because you don't appreciate, it's not you harming something, somebody else may appreciate it, you can live your life. I guess it's as if we can live without appreciation, as if we can live without the message that they conveying to us. As in we are okay without hearing the glad tidings. But this is not the case. I'm desperately in need of this. It's like not giving a medicine to someone who's sick. You cannot just say, oh, just because I didn't give you the medicine, or just because I didn't take the medicine, I'm not harming you. You just go ahead and leave. But this is not the case. The guy is sick. I am sick. I need this message. I need this medicine. So if something, including myself, block my way to access this medicine, these glad tidings, the flowers will tell me, I'm committing a crime. Now just imagine somebody visits Suhail, who is a doctor, desperately sick, needs some medicine, and he says, just go and live your life, just be a good man. Like, you cannot be a good man without the guidance, without the message that they give to you. There is no such neuter way of living, like being, disinterested. You don't care, whatever, it's art, okay, I don't care about the art. No, you cannot live without the art. You're killing yourself.
Somebody is going to talk. And, there was another point in here as well, along with this spoiling. It says we are, of course, we have not just been left to our own devices. So I guess this notion of, well, I'm not interfering with it, so why shall I be bothered? I'm not harming flower, for example, as if I should be okay in this case. I guess there's the mentality behind being a good man, or good, be the people, be the human, whatever. So, but this part is because one of the friends is reminding of this to the other friend, as if the other friend is not aware of that. The other friend has the mindset that I'm okay. I mean, why are you messing up with me? I'm just living my life in here, as if I am independently. I can independently live in here. But the first friend is reminding that we are not left. We have not just been left to our own devices. So am I aware of that? That I am not in here to just wander around as I wish? Am I not part of the order? Because of, if I observe the order plus see that I must be part of that order, then this picture starts becoming meaningful. Or otherwise I can say, well, I don't see that much of an order. Maybe some sort of a material order I see, but this order ends after the grave. If this is my perception, then I am now isolating myself from the picture. This is what it boils down to. So the author is seeing it the other way around.
Very nice. Yeah, Khadija, please go ahead.
Yeah, just along the same lines, with appreciating something and spoiling something, tracking back just a little bit, defining appreciating something as recognizing the purpose for which it's been made. So if I interact with something contrary to the purpose that it's been made, then I'm spoiling it essentially. And I think to connect it to the point that Brother Yusuf just made, like what is it to me, right? So if I go to a friend's house and I look at the painting, or there's a dinner, there's a table full of food, like what is it to me why is it so important for me to recognize the purpose, to appreciate it and not spoil it? And I think in that the part about not being left to my own devices, as Brother Yusuf mentioned, recognizing that I have a relationship with everything in the universe. So in not appreciating it and misusing it, I'm not just misusing whatever it is that I'm misusing in creation, but I am also not receiving the benefit that I can receive from it because of my relationship to it. And in not receiving benefit from it, I am receiving harm because of the harm from it because of the way I use it. So one can even claim that there's a sort of correlation between the way I choose to interact with the creation and the benefit I receive from it. So, for example, with the example of the flower, does it remind me of my inevitable death and hence non-existence or a dead end? Or in recognizing that I'm not left to my own devices, does it become a sort of a glad tidings of the absoluteness of its source, an aspect of it looking to the needs in me, addressing my needs, essentially? In asking this question, I have to kind of make that connection within myself and whatever it is that I choose to question the purpose for which it's been made.
Thank you, Khadija. Yes, Suhail, go ahead.
I don't know if you guys talked about this, but it's a small point for me, at least. When he says we have been here 15 days, and the footnote says 15 days indicates the age of 15, the age of discretion, or in other words, puberty from Bukhari. It's interesting because, at least this is just my viewpoint, we don't, myself, we don't treat the matter of existence seriously. And the Prophet saying, what else matters when you reach like the age of discernment, when you have an intellect and your ability to reason, to think, to feel? Like Khadija Bezos was giving an example of an orange or kind of spoiling creation. In this like modern age, we think 15 is like so young, like immature. The problem is like when you reduce humanity to sort of, truthfully, like, consuming robots, then, the fact that one spoils is not surprising then, even at the age of discernment, and it becomes even more and more and more difficult. And when he says, "Come, my friend, who has come a little to his senses," like what else matters when you weigh it against the scale of, the destruction of the universe or life and death? Nothing else matters. But as I think Berkan was saying, I'm a good person, that's all that matters. Once you become indoctrinated or infected with that idea from a young age, it's very difficult to sort of remove. So it really, in a sense, it's like as if the Prophet is pointing out, what other purpose do you have to existence other than to not spoil the creation? And if you think about an age of 15, that's a apparently young age, but it shows the weight of responsibility upon the human being.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that, Suhail. Okay, so anybody else who wants to comment on this part, or we can go to the next phrase about the penalties of this country's August King are bound to be awesome. And this is a little, I guess it goes to a little different topic in terms of the, like by seeing the majesty and how great the things are in what we encounter. And he follows that I mean, one question I was having was, what are the penalties? And then the author, Nursi kind of lays down that, see that how this world is being administered. You see some things that are there, and then after, a moment they are gone. So they're cleared out. Like, for example, in the, the different seasons that so in winter time, everything pretty much clears out, and then in the spring, everything comes to an order. So that shows you, like, it's on such a massive scale. It's not just like, okay, my backyard or this garden that I see, or this one farm, but it's like the whole universe, everything on Earth or the other planet, whatever they have, everything goes through this change. So such a huge administration, like unimaginable to the human mind, that is going on, and then fills it up and then empties it with such ease, with just, like, and everything is again within the perfect balance, harmony, and order, that one is not like just falls off in terms of like the world seems chaotic. Nobody can say that, because it's so properly ordered and so well disciplined in a way that it's, one can comprehend that what the nature of this this universe is, with the fate that humans and everything, we are subject to time and space. So gradually everything, the changes that are going on, we see them accordingly in the time and space moments. But yeah, so the penalties is such that I see that, if we don't recognize all those qualities, or we don't see them, and we don't use our human senses and feelings, then definitely what the penalty would be, that I would not get them. So if I don't use my tools, my senses, if I don't use my eyes properly, I don't use my hands properly, then and my sense of love, my sense of care, compassion, all those things, if I don't use them, or they get atrophied. So that's pretty much emptying it out. Because it's waste. What do we do with something that is dead? We just throw it away. So same thing with why, but that's how I understood, at least, the penalty. Like, it's really the just not using your senses, not using your human side, not really going into the belief side of things, as Suhail was mentioning, at the responsibility we have at this age of puberty, and we are fully capable of realizing and reading the meaning of things. Okay, so I will pause here, and I would love to hear your comments on how this penalty plays, what the penalties of this, how awesome they can be. Yes, go ahead, please.
Just one example about these penalties, a very small one, but I really think it's an awesome one, as the author says. So when you, for instance, let's use the spoil in a literal sense. When you spoil a food, what happens is get rotten. Some creatures come and start eating what you left. It's as if, if you don't like it, okay, there are all these other creatures would like it. So nothing is wasted. And when you look at this scene, it's disgusting, right? All these creatures, like tiny things, traveling in your food. It's disgusting. And this feeling of disgust, and when you think about it, it's such a powerful feeling. It's such an awesome creation. There is no reason to have this feeling. It's food, its shape a little bit changed, the smells changed, there are some extra living beings there, but that you having this feeling is such awesome creation that keeps you away from the food, and also, maybe more important, teaches you what you've done was bad. And now you have to live with this feeling. This is your punishment. You will look at this food and you will have this feeling of disgust. And again, like when you think a little bit how powerful must be the creator of this feeling in you, it's such a big punishment. You cannot change it, for instance. You cannot, I don't know, just to tell yourself, oh, okay, I will not get disgust. It is possible you can, kill these senses as well, but it will come with another punishment. But for a regular man, you have to live with this feeling. So what we do in that case, we just throw it away, right? Because we don't want to see it. We cannot bear with it. Such a simple feeling, but you cannot live with it. And then when you realize the waste that you're causing, or somebody show you how wasteful you are, then you feel the shame. Again, another powerful punishment. You cannot live with shame. I guess this something maybe you cannot even train yourself to kill the sense that nobody can live with shame. Such a powerful feeling, like it's more powerful than putting someone in a prison, in a cell. Just give them the feeling of the shame or disgust, and they cannot bear with it. But at the same time, you even find, as the author says at the very last sentence of the paragraph, you see this too, and if you use your head, you will understand that within that awesome majesty is an infinitely magnificent giving away. So all these like infinite mercy, with these feelings, with these punishments, you also see the mercy there. How they teach you, how they make you a better man, better human being. So yeah, that's all.
So, Gurkhan, can you explain more a little bit on what do you mean by how does it make you better?
Once this happened to me, like one friend was visiting our home. He saw something being spoiled, and he said, "Such a the lovely creation that if you don't like it, he will find someone to like it." These tiny creatures, what's the name? Maggots. So nothing is wasted. But at the same time, you are given this feeling of the disgust. When I think about that, when I contemplate about the punishment that I received, it was a so powerful message that become what you are doing. It's like just insulting the art there. This food was created in a very skillful and artful way to nourish you, but you just spoiled it in both literal and the figurative meaning. So it makes me comes to my senses, this feeling of disgust and shame. It makes me come to my senses. It makes me realize my mistake. I get that the punishment in a right way, in a merciful way, always makes us better, guides us. Like when I make a mistake to my wife, for instance, she punishes me, quote unquote.
Really? What's happening to you?
She punishes me, and when I realize that, when I contemplate on that, I say, Alhamdulillah. Every passing day, I'm becoming a better person. She's making me realize things that I was not aware before about myself. Things that harming myself. So that's what I meant.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, very good examples. Anybody else wants to comment on this paragraph? Yeah, I think we have a few minutes left, I think, based on the time Burkhan mentioned in the email. So I guess we can, if nobody else wants to comment on this, we can go to the next paragraph. Khadija, please go ahead.
Yeah, just very quickly, something that attracted my attention in the last sentence of this paragraph, when it says, you see this too, and if you use your head, you'll understand that within that awesome majesty is an infinitely magnificent liberality. So I was thinking, I guess one way that I took this was like in a particular understanding is also infinite freedom that looks to me, or and freedom in the sense that what am I freeing myself from, and depending on the way I approach everything or creation and myself, I am freeing myself from subjugating my understanding of myself to what is just physically available for me to observe or see, just things for the things themselves. So in a way, then I subject myself to just being cleared away, like the emptying of the containers or the clearing away of the table, and that's it. And I guess with this kind of infinite freedom, the flip side is kind of like infinite prisonship. I don't think that's a word, but a state of hell, I guess, infinitely subjugating myself to this mindset while I'm alive. And the freedom looks to the punishment. They're both equal in one respect. They're the power, or no, the, how do I explain this? The level to which I am free, or the level to which I become a prison, is equal. It's a matter of how I look at it. So infinite freedom or infinite prisonship.
Yeah, so it's, as you said, it's how we perceive things. Also the thing about the last sentence, as you said, if you use your head, you will understand that within that awesome majesty is infinite, magnificent liberality. So I was also getting the idea, like based on what Burkhan was saying, in terms of the, getting the message, from, in terms of, although it may seem like a punishment, but it's helping one improve themselves. So it's like an opportunity to get back on track. So all this, within the awesome majesty, there is this, infinitely magnificent. So there's infinite kind of opportunities available, and which are all beneficial to me. So even if I may have slipped somewhere, or if I'm aware of somewhere, like both are like equally like good opportunities for me to get back to what my human side is. Any more comment on this? Or it's an interesting phrase, actually. Like, it's so obvious, like the clearing away of things, the change that we are witnessing, that, like, use your head, use your intelligence, use your human reasoning and what have you, and really understand like all this, what this all means, and look at how all this is really helping you understand. Like, this is like an infinite opportunity for conscious beings. Okay. Yeah, feel free to raise your hand if you have any comment. And I think the last paragraph, yeah, let's see, I pretty much, I think it's more of a concluding in terms of everything pretty much is testifying, like, to they're not just there for themselves, but they are actually pointing to someone and showing what that who the sovereign one is, who the absolute one is, who is the one that is permanent. And the other thing I like in this paragraph was about he says the true veil. So things are just coming up, like he said, caravans are open and closed, and it's not by themselves, but there is, if you go beneath the veils, then you see that there is the source that must be permanent, that is behind all these acts that I am observing. Yeah, so anybody wants to comment on this last paragraph? I mean, yeah, the last sentence, also the speedy changing of things and the things that follow on after them, assuming the same color, shows that they are the manifestations, inscriptions, mirrors, and works of art of one who is perpetual, undying, and single. So these are the conclusions we can come to based on like looking at and analyzing all these changes that are happening. Yes, Philly Crew, please go ahead.
So just one comment about this change, and especially the sentence which talks about the bubbles, like all these bubbles going away, but the ones come new, they sparkle the same way. The sparkling, the light is constant, but the mirrors that manifest this light is constantly changing. This is so like the creation in that way. Everything is being changing, but all these things staying constant, fixed. It's such an elegant creation, such an elegant design. I guess we see the example of this fact in our lives over time, from our infancy to adulthood. Everything is changes. Everything is changes. The place we live change. The language that we speak change. The things we eat change. Our friends change. Sometimes families change. Everything. But there's always this constant love, constant mercy, constant compassion, always coming towards you. Somebody's always taking care of you wherever you go. And again, the creation is so elegant, design is so elegant, it doesn't let you to stick with someone and say that, okay, this is my provider, because he or she will be taken away. Design is so beautiful that even if you try to be proud with something that you have, it will be taken away from you. Nothing is constant except the qualities, except this lordship that we experience. When you are a child, there's your mother taking care of you. When you are, adult, there's your husband, wife taking care of you. When you get older, your kids taking care of you. It's always changing. But being taken care of is always there. Somehow, one way or another. As long as you're alive, your life is being taken care of. So the change and what is behind being fixed and constant, again, so beautiful. Maybe one reason, we love movies or stories. Yeah, there are all these different aspects as well, but the things changing in front of us, just like in a movie scene. But there's a constant light behind them, not changing. Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah, thank you for really highlighting that part about the, the change is happening and things change, but what is the source, the responsible thing behind that change is always constant. So all those qualities are always constant. But for us things, they change. But the constant never changes for us. If we understand that, it's a very beautiful thing. Inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. الفاتحة.